You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program.
And greetings, my friends, patriots, lovers of democracy, truth, and justice, believers in peace, freedom, and the American way. Thom Hartmann here with you, and in my hand this highlighter, because I am going through right now the Supreme Court decision that came down about an hour ago, hour and a half ago, 2 hours ago, in the case of Citizens United versus the Federal Election Commission. This is absolutely mind-boggling. Today, 5 conservative activist judges on the United States Supreme Court, in an act that the 4 dissenters called the height of recklessness. That's an actual quote from the dissent. Said that corporations stand on the same ground as human beings with regard to the First Amendment, with regard to constitutional rights. I mean, this is absolutely mind-boggling. Justice Thomas. I'm sorry. I'm going along here. This is Roberts concurring. Okay. Chief Justice Roberts says, the government, now in this case, the government urges us in this case to uphold a direct prohibition on political speech. That's true. And it says, and he says, First Amendment rights could be confined to individuals. Thus, he says, subverting the vibrant public discourse that is the foundation of our democracy. Say what? If only individuals have the right of free speech in the United States, it subverts the vibrant public discourse that's the foundation of our democracy. He says the First Amendment protects more than just the individual on a soapbox in the lonely pamphleteer. Right. It also protects the transnational corporation. Now, in their dissent, Sotomayor and Stevens and Breyer and Ginsburg said the fact that corporations are different from human beings might seem to need no elaboration, except that the majority opinion almost completely elides it. Unlike natural persons, unlike human beings, I'm quoting from the dissent in the decision today, corporations have limited liability, perpetual life, and favorable treatment of the accumulation and distribution of their assets that enhances their ability to attract capital to deploy their resources. Unlike voters in U.S. elections, corporations may be foreign-controlled. Unlike other interest groups, business corporations have been effectively delegated responsibility for ensuring society's economic welfare. And because of this, they inescapably structure the life of every citizen. I mean, they're just nailing this stuff. And they get into Tokyo Rose in here. This is absolutely. I've got a whole bunch of other news that I want to share with you, but this part from the dissent is just incredible. And first of all, they talk about how the framers took it as a given that corporations could be comprehensively regulated in the service of public welfare. Unlike our colleagues, that's the 5 activist conservatives who took away from you and me the exclusive right of free speech and gave it to large transnational foreign Chinese corporations. Unlike our colleagues, they had little trouble distinguishing corporations from human beings. This is the dissent. This is the 4 who lost, talking about the 5 on the 5 right-wing Republican-appointed justices, the Opus Dei coalition. The framers, from the dissent by Stevens, the framers took it as a given that corporations could be comprehensively regulated in the service of public welfare. Unlike our colleagues, they had little trouble distinguishing corporations from human beings. And when they constitutionalized the right to free speech in the First Amendment, it was the free speech of individual Americans that they had in mind, they being the framers. And in fact, here, they say corporations were created, this is at the founding of our country. At the founding of the United States, in the beginning. In fact, it says, let us start at the beginning. The court invokes ancient First Amendment principles, but doesn't, it makes only a perfunctory attempt to ground the analysis in the principles or understandings of those who drafted and ratified the First Amendment. Perhaps this is because there is not a scintilla of evidence to support the notion that anyone believed that the First Amendment would stop regulatory distinctions based on the corporate form. And they even quote Robert Bork in the dissent, saying the framers and their contemporaries conceived of speech more narrowly than we think of it now. But this part about Tokyo Rose is just amazing. If I can find where I've marked it. Here, another little quote, soundbite. The majority seem oblivious. Right. Here's their biggest concern. This is the concern that was expressed by the dissenters, the 4 dissenters. They said corporate domination of electioneering can generate the impression that corporations dominate our democracy. Citizens may lose faith in their capacity as citizens to influence public policy. A government captured by corporate interests, citizens may come to believe, will be neither responsive to their needs nor willing to give their views a fair hearing. The predictable result is cynicism and disenfranchisement, an increased perception that large spenders call the tune, and a reduced willingness of voters to take part in democratic governance. To the extent that corporations are allowed to exert undue influence in election races, the speech of the eventual winners of those races may also be chilled. So first they say, this is the dissent. These are the guys who lost, who said, no, we shouldn't give corporations absolute rights of free speech. First they say, by giving corporations rights of free speech, you're going to cause average individual citizens to say, screw it, why should I participate? The corporations own the politicians, they're running the show, why should I even bother to vote? In other words, democracy itself is at risk. And that's what these activist conservative judges have done today. They put democracy itself at risk. Then they go on to talk about the impact on politicians. To the extent that corporations are now allowed to exert undue influence in election races, electoral races, the speech of the eventual winners of those races may also be chilled. Politicians who fear that a certain corporation can make or break their re-election chances may be cowed into silence about that corporation. Unregulated corporate electioneering might diminish the ability of citizens to hold officials accountable to the people and disserve the goal of a public debate that is uninhibited, robust, and wide open. The majority's unwillingness to distinguish between corporations and humans similarly blinds it to the possibility that corporate war chests and their special advantages in the legal realm, and it may translate into special advantages in the market for legislation. Gee, you think? I mean, it is at this decision today is absolutely amazing. They point out, unlike voters in U.S. elections, corporations may be foreign-controlled, and this is so. I don't know where to go. I'm lacking superlatives. The Supreme Court has handed the American electoral process to corporations. Lock, stock, and barrel. 5 conservatives on the Supreme Court. 5 Republican-appointed conservatives on the Supreme Court have handed to corporations the right to money bomb on an unlimited basis any politician. This happened 2 hours ago. Benito Mussolini invented a new form of government. It was the merger of corporation and state. He called it fascism. Welcome, my friends, to the fascist state of America.